Hey, what's up, guys? This is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with our DraftKings daily fantasy strategies for week 3 defenses. There are 4 defenses that I'm going to discuss today. The first one is going to be the obvious chalk pick that everybody's talking about, and that's the Seattle Seahawks at 3,400. They go home, they're 0-2, they're pissed off, and they face a Bears team that has been struggling, who just lost quarterback Jay Cutler. That means that this Seattle defense is going to get to go up against Jimmy Clausen at home in a game where they should absolutely murder the Bears here. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I don't have to really explain this play. Seattle's defense is still very good. They are missing a couple of the guys who they had in years past. But again, they still have most of that core there. They're still supposed to be one of the top defenses in the league. I do still think they are one of the top defenses in the league. Now, here's the problem that we're going to have. Everybody knows about this. Everybody knows that Cutler's out. Everybody knows that Clausen's in. Everybody knows Seattle's at home, where they're very, very good always as a defense. Everybody is going to be picking Seattle this week. I think we're going to see some obnoxiously high ownership rates on them, and I do think that there is a chance that you're going to have to put them into some of your rosters if you're somebody who multi-enters. If you're playing cash games, I mean, they are the chalkiest of chalk picks, but they make the absolute most sense of any defense that's going today. So if you're playing in cash, you might as well just plug them in and then build your lineup around them. If you're playing in tournaments, there's obviously going to be some merit to fading them because they are going to be so highly owned. But I do still think you need some exposure because there is a very good chance that they're going to be the highest scoring defense on the week. Now, if you decide not to play Seattle, there are a couple other options that you can look at. The Jets are going up against the Philadelphia Eagles this week. Now, we know that Eagles team has been struggling. Their guards are not very good. The Jets defense has been amazing through the first 2 games. They have actually tied a league record with 10 takeaways in the first 2 games of the season. As a Jets fan, I would have to check the numbers, but I'm not even sure if they had 10 takeaways all last year. So that's how good this defense is playing right now. I think that they're going to be able to get some pressure on Bradford. I think they're going to be able to get some sacks. I think that Bradford's going to have to throw a lot because the Jets have been doing a very good job of stopping the run, and the Eagles haven't been able to run anyway. So you put those 2 things together, I think you're going to have to see Bradford try to go to the air in this one. And when Bradford goes to the air, the Jets have been picking off passes left and right. Again, week 1, they played Johnny Manziel. I'm not going to put a lot of stock into what they did to him. But week 2, they played Andrew Luck, who's a legitimate NFL quarterback, probably one of the best, a guy who people were taking in the first round of season-long leagues and expecting to break touchdown records this year. So the fact that they picked him off, I think it was 3 times on Monday night, this is a very, very good Jet defense. They're $3,000 altogether. Like I said, they have already generated 10 turnovers in their first 2 games, and they're probably one of the safest options that you could take today. I remember the amount of points that a team allows or scores is not the only component of their overall fantasy defense score. While the Eagles may be able to put up some points in this game, it's going to be a fast pace, just like most Eagles games are. I do think that the Jets are going to do enough and have enough scoring opportunities on the defensive side of the football that they're going to be able to get you a nice fantasy score in this game today and be one of the top defenses on the day. And I'm not just saying that as a homer pick, which is why I'm trying to explain to you why I made that pick, even though they are my favorite team, and I will probably be at that game on Sunday. Next team I want to talk about, I actually really like the New England Patriots in this situation, and let me explain why to you. Yes, they're a big favorite, but that actually plays into their hands. One thing that Belichick is very good at is bringing pressure and finishing off games. That Patriots defense has always had that ability to finish off games. And what I mean by that is once they get up and once they get a couple scores and they're winning a game, Belichick has no problem bringing exotic zone blitzes, matching guys up, switching things up, giving a quarterback different looks. And now when you have a guy like Peyton Manning, it's like a chess match between the 2 of them because Manning is looking and seeing what he's doing, trying to figure out where the openings are, stuff like that. A guy like Bortles, though, does not have that ability at this stage in his career. Bortles is basically just going to drop back and just sling it. And the Patriots and Jacksonville are actually 2 of the higher-paced teams that we have in the league. I think both teams right now are actually in the top 6 for pace of play, meaning how quickly they get the ball, get out of the huddle, get up to the line, snap the ball, and run a play. I think both of them are in the top 6 of the league right now. So not only is this going to be a high-scoring game, but it's going to be a fast-paced game. So with the Patriots very likely to be, up big and kind of blowing them out, I think when Jacksonville has the ball, they're going to try to hurry. They're going to try to get as many plays off as they can, and they're going to try to pass the ball. Every time they drop back to pass, that just makes it a better chance for that Patriots defense to pick up a sack or pick up a fumble, a strip sack fumble, to pick up an interception and to try to run those back and get some defensive points for you. I really like this team today. I also don't think they're going to give up anywhere near as many points as some people think. I think this over-under on this game is 49. The Patriots are favored by, I don't know, I think it's almost double digits at this point. It might even be like 14. So they're really only expecting about 17 points out of the Jags at most. I do think the Jags will score a couple times. This Patriots defense is not a lockdown defense, but they are an opportunistic defense, which is why I think they will be able to get some turnovers and score some fantasy points. The last defense I want to talk about is the Denver Broncos going up against the Detroit Lions. Guys, if you haven't been watching this Denver team play, this is one of the best defenses in the league. Through 2 games, they've only allowed 25 points. They have 6 sacks, and they've already created 5 turnovers. They're going up against a Detroit team that also has, 5 turnovers through the first 2 games, 2.5 turnovers a game, which is not really a good number. They're not taking care of the ball very well. Matthew Stafford has a couple interceptions. And the thing is, their offensive line has been a little bit weak this year. They haven't given up a lot of sacks, but they have been giving up a lot of pressure. And this Denver defensive line can bring the pressure. I mean, even with like 4 down linemen, they're still going to be able to get to the quarterback in this game. And they have some pretty decent secondary players that are ball hawks that have been, coming up with some picks and running them back to the house for a touchdown. I do think that Denver is going to be winning this game, which means to me that Detroit's going to have to be throwing late. And if Detroit is throwing with that Denver pass rush, I think that they're going to be able to get some sacks. I think they're going to be able to generate some turnovers, and I think they're going to be able to get a good score for you today. So those are the 4 defenses that I'm really looking at. Oh, and Denver's $3,000 as well, along with the Jets. So those are really the 4 defenses that I'm looking at today. There are a couple other ones that intrigue me. I just wanted to mention real fast here. We got Cincinnati against Baltimore, I think could be okay. Carolina against New Orleans, especially if Drew Brees' arm is still banged up. The other side of that game, taking the Lions as a cheap option against the Denver Broncos. We know that Peyton Manning has been throwing, basically some ducks. He hasn't had a lot of passes intercepted, but he's had a lot of those passes that hit a defensive back like right in the hands where a guy just about picked it off. And the thing about his interceptions and about him underthrowing receivers is, he's doing it to the outside, to the hash, outside the hashes, which means that if one of those DBs does pick one of those off, there's a good chance he can take it back to the house. The Cleveland Browns against the Oakland Raiders. Again, I'm not a big fan of this Oakland offense, even though they had a big week last week. And the thing about Cleveland is, you always have Travis Benjamin in your back pocket who can run back a punt or a kickoff at any time. If you haven't watched this guy run back punch yet, he's electric. The Tennessee Titans going up against the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, that Colt offensive line is horrendous. I know they played Buffalo and I know they played the Jets last week, and that's 2 pretty good defenses, but I mean, they can't block anybody. So that's going to be a problem for them. Arizona bringing some pressure against San Francisco. They're another team that could be in play. Buffalo against Miami. That Miami offense does not look as good as people think it does. You got Tannehill banged up. You got Lamar Miller banged up. You got Jordan Cameron banged up. A couple or all of those guys may not be even playing this weekend. So just keep an eye on that. Obviously, if you're taking 3 of the best players on that offense off of that offense, it's going to make them weaker in the long run. Texans going up against Tampa Bay. It's always a good idea to go against, Jameis Winston. He's definitely somebody who I think that you might be able to, to exploit for some points here as well. So those are just some other defenses that you guys can keep in mind. Again, remember, Seattle is going to be the chalk. They're in the best spot. They're probably going to be the cash game play that everybody should use. But if you want to win a tournament, you really need some shares of them too, because they could be the highest scoring defense. So you don't want to completely fade them. But if for some chance they do have a bad day and you happen to pick a defense that goes for 25 or 30, or even if they have a good day and go for 20 or 25 and you happen to pick a defense that gets 25 to 30, you're going to be a little bit ahead of a large portion of the field who's going to have the Seahawks as their defense. So just keep that in mind when you're making your tournament rosters, even though they are probably the best play. This has been another recap of our DraftKings defense picks for week 3. Thank you guys for joining us here at RotoCurve. And as always, stay classy, DFS.